Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. In one of the most surprising nominations yet, President-elect Trump nominated Florida Representative Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general, and the response has been quite interesting. Is the mainstream media dead? Did their overt support of Kamala Harris's failed presidential bid finally turn the American people against the left, these left-leaning fanatics that make up a large portion of the networks? We're going to dive into that in just a moment. Joe Biden and Donald Trump met in the Oval Office yesterday to discuss a smooth and peaceful transition of power on January 20th, with social media erupting after Joe Biden appeared jubilant in his White House meeting with President-elect Donald Trump.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida resigned his seat in the House of Representatives almost immediately yesterday. According to Speaker Mike Johnson, Gaetz gave House GOP leaders his resignation notice the same day that President-elect Donald Trump offered Gaetz as his choice for Attorney General. And Speaker Johnson said, I think out of deference to us, he issued his resignation letter effective immediately. That caught us by surprise a bit, but I asked him what the reasoning was, and he said, well, you can't have too many absences. Now, what he was speaking of, and the speaker pointed out that Florida state law gives Governor Ron DeSantis an 8-week period to fill a House vacancy, and that by doing so, they could potentially have someone fill that seat by January the 3rd. Johnson said he's already in contact with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on the matter. Speaking with reporters after the internal House GOP leadership election, Johnson said Trump had informed him about his decision to choose Gaetz for the Department of Justice earlier yesterday morning. He's the third House Republican Trump has tapped for his new administration after he picked Representative Elise Stefanik from New York to be his U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and, of course, Representative Mike Waltz from Florida also for National Security Advisor. President Trump's two earlier selections prompted concerns about the thinning of an already slim majority for the House GOP in the 119th Congress. But Gaetz resigning early alleviates some of these concerns because, again, it appears that Florida will have the opportunity to have someone in place before they go back into session in January. Out of the three House members chosen, Gaetz likely faces the biggest hurdle of getting Senate confirmation, though. The NSA role is not a Senate confirmed position, so that's automatic. And Representative Stefanik's appointment has already received a lot of bipartisan praise. But multiple Republican senators have already signaled that they have some heartburn over the choice of Matt Gaetz. He is known as an outspoken, described by some as a bomb thrower, who was previously under a year-long DOJ investigation himself, stemming from accusations that he had a sexual relationship with a minor. The Department of Justice ultimately did not press charges. They just let the media talk about it. A Republican senator granted anonymity to speak freely told Fox News, quote, he will never get confirmed. One Senate Republican simply said, ain't going to happen, about the prospect of Gaetz' confirmation. The announcement came during House Republicans' leadership, their elections yesterday morning. One lawmaker told Fox News Digital that there were audible gasps in the room when the news broke. When nominating him, however, President Trump praised Representative Gaetz as a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney who will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in the Justice Department. House GOP leaders, including House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, similarly praised the appointment of Gaetz. Others saying not so quick. And this may be a tough one. This may be the first nomination by President Trump that he may get some trouble within his own party, just based on some of the comments that have already been made. What do you think? Is Matt Gaetz a good choice to be the Attorney General? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Remember to always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com and place your order. When you use promo code Joey, you're going to get the very best price on any product that you order, particularly the standard MyPillow, which are still on sale. Mike Lindell has extended the special on the MyPillow standards. They're typically $49.98. Now, for a limited time, you're going to receive it for $14.98 when you use promo code Joey. You can only order 10, but go ahead and order 10. Give them away for Christmas gifts. Call 800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Joey. Of course, some of the left-leaning media are having a field day with Matt Gaetz. The Huffington Post, for example, wrote, several Republican lawmakers were astounded by the news that President-elect Donald Trump planned to tap Representative Matt Gaetz as the top law enforcement official in his upcoming administration. They quoted Senator Susan Collins, who, yes, is a Republican from Maine. They quoted her as saying, I was shocked by the announcement. House Speaker Mike Johnson announced at a late-day press conference that Gaetz had resigned. Gaetz's resignation, again, also will end an ongoing House ethics investigation into the allegations of sexual misconduct, drugs, improper payments, and obstruction of justice, as former members are not subject to the panel's jurisdiction. So those will go away. President Trump said in a post on social media that Gaetz had distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice. Gaetz, of course, has been a very harsh critic of the DOJ's two criminal cases against Trump, one for trying to overturn the 2020 election and another for hoarding classified documents at Mar-a-Lago after Trump left the White House. Matt Gaetz has also suggested that federal agents helped orchestrate the riots by Trump supporters on January 6, 2021. Senator Collins and other Republicans said that Matt Gaetz would need to be confirmed, of course, by the Senate, suggested it would be difficult for him to win a majority approval, even though Republicans have a 53-47 majority. Collins said this shows why the advice and consent process is so important, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of questions raised at his hearing. Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina told reporters it'll sure make for a popcorn-eating confirmation hearing. Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska said, I don't think it's a serious nomination for the Attorney General. Why would she think that Donald Trump would appoint or nominate someone and he wouldn't be serious? A group of House Republicans gathered for a party meeting yesterday. Again, according to the Huffington Post, were quite surprised by the announcement. Gaetz isn't popular among some of his GOP colleagues. I mean, that's just a known fact. I'm sure he'll address it head on. According to reports from various sources, many of his House colleagues resent him for driving the ouster of former Representative Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership. They blame him for leaving the party leaderless for weeks until they finally settled on Speaker Johnson as McCarthy's replacement. Again, it was quite interesting to watch the response yesterday as I sort of scanned through various sources and newsletters that I read to watch the response. Representative Mike Simpson, he's a Republican from Idaho, is reportedly said, "Are you kidding me? I cleaned it up for you." Asked by one reporter if he thought Gaetz had the character and experience to be Attorney General, Representative Simpson stared at them incredulously, he said, waited about 6 seconds to answer, and then said again with a laugh, "Are you kidding me that you asked that question?" Several others, of course, brought up his ethics situation. Gaetz has denied all the allegations, claimed that McCarthy orchestrated the investigation out of a desire of revenge. Prior to Johnson's announcement of Gaetz' resignation, Representative Michael Guest, chairman of the House Ethics Committee, said the panel would not speed up its probe despite the prospect of confirmation hearings where Gaetz' conduct would be examined. Guest said this matter is not unique from other cases where we have members who have been under investigation who have either resigned or have been defeated in their bid for re-election. He said, "We're not going to do anything to expedite this." Johnson praised Gaetz for departing and called him one of the most intelligent members of Congress. Most Senate Republicans avoided saying whether they would support Gaetz and his nomination. Senator Lindsey Graham, the top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said, "I'll keep an open mind." He said, "I usually support presidential picks to be in their cabinet. I've done that for both sides." Later in the day, Senator Graham posted that he would support the president, and since the president had made the nomination, he would support the nomination. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part, PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. So the day after the election, Brian Stelter wrote for CNN, Donald Trump's return to power is a hinge point for the American media in ways big, small, and to be determined. His defeat of Kamala Harris is raising questions about the media's credibility, influence, and audience. Some of the questions might not be answerable for years. I don't think it's going to take years. I can answer it for them right now. You ignored the will of the American people. It's just that simple. And just like they turned on the extreme beliefs that Kamala Harris was pushing throughout her short campaign, they've also turned on the networks. The American people have said to the networks, we do not like what you are feeding us. Americans are saying to the mainstream media, we don't appreciate you feeding us the misinformation, the disinformation, or whatever you want to call it, about Kamala Harris and ignoring the real facts. It's just that simple. And the ratings show it. In the wake of Donald Trump's election, for example, MSNBC's primetime viewership took a significant hit, plummeting by 54%, according to Nielsen Media Research. This huge decline, I think, highlights a broader shift in audience behavior, as many viewers tuned out of the network's left-leaning coverage. Again, they just didn't want to watch it, because they knew it wasn't true. They knew that these media outlets were in the tank for Kamala Harris because of their hatred of Donald Trump. Let me give you an example. In October, MSNBC averaged 1.8 million viewers during prime time. This fell to just over 800,000 in the days leading up to and after the election. And particularly among the younger demo, the 25-54, which is a key demo for advertisers, Ratings there fell 57%. And that's their money shot. That's where they make their money. You don't think that got their attention? While MSNBC faced losses, Fox News experienced a surge in ratings, growing by 61% during the same period. So think about that. You've got one left-leaning network, MSNBC, who tried their best to defeat Donald Trump against the will of the American people. And then you have a network like Fox News who is fair, who calls it like it is. You think there's a correlation between MSNBC losing 54% and Fox gaining 61%? Fox's coverage of the election night itself drew 10.3 million viewers, easily outpacing the 6 million viewers of MSNBC and CNN's 5.1 million. MSNBC's top shows, like Alex Wagner Tonight, I've never watched it, All In with Chris Hayes, and The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, recorded some of their smallest audiences of the year. Viewers appear to have disengaged, probably because of their frustration with the network's election analysis, mirroring similar declines seen after the 2016 election cycle. They came back then. The question is, will they come back this time? MSNBC is not the only network facing changes. CNN is gearing up for a sweeping overhaul, we're told, under their CEO, Mark Thompson. There's reports that they'll experience significant layoffs across the organization. This according to Puck News. The cuts could affect hundreds of employees as the network shifts towards a digital-first strategy, and according to Puck News, trims its television production teams. This, too, comes in the wake of disappointing ratings, especially during election night coverage, where CNN fell behind both Fox and MSNBC. Let's go back to CNN's primetime election coverage. It attracted only 5.1 million viewers, which was a decline from the 13.3 million who tuned in back in 2016. People are just fed up with these networks trying to tell us who we should be supporting and what we should be believing. And it's, they just believe that the American people are idiots, that we don't see what they're doing. Why can't they get back to reporting the facts? Tell us both sides, or at least be fair about it, and let us decide. It's just that simple. Back to Brian Stelter's column that he wrote that appeared on CNN.com. He said, but journalists are asking each other, what does this red wave election say about the information environment in the United States? He writes, in the hours after Trump won re-election, some of his loyalists asserted that his victory is a complete repudiation of the news media. For a time on Wednesday morning, the Federalist's lead headline was not about Trump. It was about the corporate media industrial complex being 2024's biggest loser. He then cited a post on X by the Daily Wire podcaster Matt Walsh, who wrote, legacy media is officially dead. Their ability to set the narrative has been destroyed. Trump declared war on the media in 2016. Tonight, he vanquished them completely. They will never be relevant again. You agree with that? Do you think the CNNs and the ABCs and CBSs of the world will ever be relevant again? Did they get the message? Will they make changes to try to win back those viewers? Stelter doesn't believe it's quite that bad. He wrote, that's wishful thinking on Walsh's part. Tuesday's marathon election coverage was a testament to the media's relevance. But the point is that many Trump voters share his wish. They believe the national news media is a big part of what ails America. Not only do they distrust what they read, they often just don't read it in the first place. Can anything be done to change that, he asked? A quote in a recent New York Magazine column had a similar question. The quote from an anonymous TV executive was recirculated on social media last week, saying, if half the country has decided that Trump is qualified to be president, that means they're not reading any of this media, and we've lost this audience completely. The executive said a Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form, and the question is, what does it look like after? What's the old saying about taking care of a problem? You got to admit that you have a problem first. You think the mainstream media is finally realizing, Houston, we have a problem? Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. President Joe Biden welcomed back President Donald Trump to the Oval Office yesterday.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough. And it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
President Biden's smiling face during the meeting with President-elect Trump in the Oval Office yesterday caught the attention of social media, sparking speculation that the incumbent Democrat president appeared to be happy to hand over the reins to Trump after his party pressured him to drop out of the presidential race back in the summer. At the Oval Office meeting yesterday, Biden and Trump both pledged a smooth transition between the administrations after the contentious end of the 2020 election. President Biden said as cameras and reporters were briefly allowed in the Oval Office for the meeting, said, "I look forward to having a smooth transition. We'll do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated." But it was Biden's apparent joyful demeanor, the big smile on his face, which delighted conservatives on social media who remarked that the president had never looked happier. Meanwhile, there was a lot of speculation at what the two men talked about. Fox News correspondent Edward Lawrence asked Karine Jean-Pierre if President Biden apologized to President Trump for the rhetoric that's been used over the past few months.
But a lot was said on the campaign trail, like Trump is a dangerous threat to our country and our democracy. Was there an apology today?
I'm sorry?
Was there an apology from
President
Biden for the words, some of the words used?
An apology from the President Biden.
To President-elect Trump for some of the words that was used on the campaign trail.
Look, and I've answered this a couple of times about a threat to democracy in the past week. The president is going to always feel obligated to be honest with the American people.
So I guess you means that Joe Biden being honest with the American people was telling the American people that he thinks Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. I mean, that's kind of what he said back in the heat of the campaign. And it is a fair question as to whether or not Trump received an apology from Joe Biden. That had to be a little bit unusual, didn't it? These two men have been fierce competitors for years now. And to be sitting in the Oval Office within a couple of feet from one another with that roaring fire in the background, It was a pretty sight. It was a pretty setting. But it was quite interesting to see these two political enemies sitting in the same room together. Wonder where Kamala Harris was. Wonder what she thought about that meeting. Certainly not the meeting she had expected, is it? It's also interesting how Joe Biden seems to be pretty pleased with the idea that Donald Trump is returning to the White House and not his vice president. Link Lauren, former senior advisor to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., wrote on X, Biden's never looked happier. Trending Politics co-owner Colin Regg agreed on X, said, I've never seen Joe Biden this happy. Turning Point USA contributor Morgan Michael wrote on X, who else thinks Biden voted for Trump? You think he did? I know we talked about Jill Biden wearing her MAGA red outfit on Election Day. But do you think the Bidens really voted for Donald Trump because of their probably disdain of how quickly Kamala Harris pushed Joe Biden aside and then was critical of the administration to a degree? Probably not as much as she should have been. But all this moving forward and turning the page stuff, that's kind of a backhanded slap to your boss. A comedian, Tim Young, speculated on social media saying, Biden, all smiles, said, welcome back to Trump. You can't convince me that Biden didn't vote for him. A lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are convinced that Joe Biden and Dr. Jill voted for Donald Trump. Other comments. Former Pennsylvania Republican Senate candidate Sean Parnell wrote, Joe Biden shares the same smile that most of America has right now. Everyone is psyched for Trump to be back in the White House, including Biden. On the X account, In Wokeness, they wrote, sharing side-by-side photos of former President Obama and Trump appearing reserved during their 2016 transition meeting alongside the smiling Biden next to Trump on Wednesday, saying, spot the difference. The meeting came on the heels, of course, of First Lady Jill Biden igniting social media after she gave an apparent icy reception to Kamala Harris during an event at Arlington Cemetery on Tuesday. One person, Steve Cortez, a conservative commentator, wrote on X, it's safe to say that Jill Biden hates Kamala Harris's guts. And let's not forget, again, that MAGA red outfit. I still can't get over that. That wasn't just an oversight. Jill Biden knew when she walked out that day, on Election Day, that people were going to be talking about her MAGA red outfit. No way she didn't know that. No way that was just a mistake, an oversight. She didn't think about the fact the meaning of having that red outfit on. I don't think Dr. Jill cares for Kamala Harris at all. Do you? And how Kamala treated her husband. And good for them. According to reports, both men yesterday pledged a smooth transition. The President Biden met, of course, with Trump for about 2 hours, they said. White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and incoming Chief of Staff Susie Wiles joined the meeting at one point. It was a substantive meeting with an exchange of views, according to Karine Jean-Pierre, saying they discussed important national security and domestic policy issues facing the nation and the world. Jean-Pierre said President Biden also raised important items on Congress's to-do list for the lame duck session, including funding the government and providing the disaster supplemental funding the president had requested. Finally, the president reiterated what he had said to the president-elect the day after the election to the American people in the Rose Garden, that there'll be an orderly transition and that there will be a peaceful transition. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan added that President Biden reinforced his view that the United States would stand with Ukraine, and I'm assuming he suggested to President Trump that they continue that it was a national, in our best national security interest. A veteran political scientist pointed out, though, the significance of yesterday's meeting. Wayne L'Esperance is a college poli-sci professor. And he pointed out that President Biden's decision to welcome President-elect Trump to the White House is a tribute to the normalcy in the presidential transition process. He wrote that this was denied Joe Biden following his election because Donald Trump refused to make the invitation. And you may recall that. Lawrence, of course, is referencing the fact that President Trump did not invite Joe Biden to the White House after the 2020 election. He also, you'll recall, left Washington ahead of the inauguration. He became the first sitting president in about a century, in over a century, to skip out on his successor's inauguration. I'm assuming that Biden is planning to attend the Trump inauguration in January. The meeting was the first between Joe Biden and Donald Trump since they faced off in Atlanta for the debate on June 27th. The two presidents, along with Harris and Trump's running mate and now Vice President-elect Senator J.D. Vance, also stood next to each other on September 11th in New York City's Lower Manhattan at the ceremonies for the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. This was Trump's second meeting at the White House with the departing president. 8 years ago, after defeating Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton, he sat with White House in the White House with President Barack Obama, who was finishing up his second term. Obama said at the time, we now are going to want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds. This is a tradition. And I'll have to say, kudos to Joe Biden for having Donald Trump in the Oval Office today and for pledging his cooperation as Donald Trump regains the presidency. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Special counsel Jack Smith asked a federal appellate court yesterday to halt his appeal in President-elect Donald Trump's classified documents case, citing the results of the 2024 election and the fact that Donald Trump would be sworn in as president again. We'll get to that in just a moment. First, some of your text messages. Jennifer writes, honestly, I shake my head and laugh every time I think about it. Trump wants Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general. Thank you, Mr. President-elect. You let us breathe for a whole week before you threw us a twister. Is this the same House of Representative Gaetz that we wanted to smack about a year ago because he wouldn't shut up attacking Speaker Kevin McCarthy until he got him thrown out? Nobody does it better than D.C. politicians. They played really nice all day. And even the ladies on The View approve of Trump's Marco Rubio pick, and Tom Homan too. But here we are, blow up number one. I'm assuming you're talking about Matt Gaetz. Another texter says, Joey, sorry to bother you with this. You're our go-to man. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And you know you can always ask me a question. If Matt Gaetz doesn't work out, can President Trump replace him? Please say yes. He's the one I really have a bad feeling about. I think he's a whiny bag, but I will pray for him as well. Thanks for all you do. Your family is always in our prayers. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, any cabinet position serves at the pleasure of the president. So if the president wants Gaetz to step aside he'll have to step aside. It's interesting, though, that so many of you, and I got some other emails and text messages questioning Matt Gaetz. I'm just really curious of what you think about Matt Gaetz being Attorney General. Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com and make those purchases. You'll save big when you use promo code Joey. Christy writes, listening to all these appointments by Trump, and I'm waiting to hear who the press secretary will be. I wonder if Peter Doocy is disappointed that soon he won't be able to throw out the questions to Karine Jean-Pierre. That will be a dull day for sure. Oh, boy. Tony writes, Joey, it's sad that Trump's beatdown in this election is what it took for the news media to wake up and change how they'll tell the news. Well, Tony, you're right, but hold on a second there, because I'm not sure that they're really going to wake up. I hope they do. And I'm sure you're referencing what I talked with you about yesterday and talk with you about again today. The news media, the mainstream media, some of the networks, MSNBC, CNN, they took a real beating in their ratings, big time. Did it wake them up? Did it get their attention? We'll see. I'm not so sure that it did, though, because they haven't really changed that much in, the week and a half or so. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them a chance. Faye writes on the text line, Joey, have you seen the LAPD police chief who says he will not participate in deportation? I have a friend, or maybe a former friend, who lives in California, and she and her lawyer husband are all in for these illegals. Joey, I'm thinking the salty air from the Pacific is deteriorating their brains. These educated idiots think it seems for innocent people to be murdered by vile illegals, but bet if their families were being murdered, the tune might be different. Trump needs much prayer as he has these idiots to deal with. That's for sure, Faye. We have to keep praying for Trump to make the right decisions and for Trump to be safe. All right, so back to Special Counsel Jack Smith, who made it official that as a result of the election, and this is what his statement said he wrote this to the Atlanta-based 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. As a result of the election held on November the 5th, one of the defendants in this case, Donald J. Trump, is expected to be certified as president-elect on January the 6th, 2025, and inaugurated on January 20th, 2025. He said the government respectfully requests that the court hold this appeal in abeyance and stay the deadline for the government's reply brief, which is currently due on November 15th, until December the 2nd, to afford the government time to assess this unprecedented circumstance and determine the appropriate course going forward consistent with Department of Justice policy. The classified documents case was dismissed back in July by Florida Judge Eileen Cannon, and Smith had sought to appeal her ruling. The special counsel noted that if granted the abeyance, his team would inform the appeals court of its future plans by December the 2nd. Smith said that he consulted with Trump's legal team and that they do not object to the request. The filing comes, of course, after U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan froze Smith's 2020 election interference case against Trump last week, filing the prosecutor's request for a pause in court filing deadlines. Multiple reports indicate that the Justice Department intends to wind down all pending litigation against the 45th, soon-to-be 47th president, in light of the Election Day victory. Now, don't you know that just really, really bugs them, that they have to do this, that they have to retreat? The New York Times reported that Smith is scrambling to finalize what's left of his work so that he can retire before Trump takes office and fires him. Trump has made it clear. In fact, he said within 2 seconds of being sworn back into the White House on January 20th, he's going to fire Jack Smith. So Jack Smith is trying to not give Trump that pleasure and to be out of Dodge or out of Washington, out of D.C. before Trump returns. He's already informed members of his team, according to reports, that they can start planning for their departure over the next few weeks. So, look, if I'm on Jack Smith's team, A few weeks ago, you might have thought you had job security. Suddenly that changed. I'd be finding a new job quickly. Judge Cannon threw out Smith's case alleging that Trump improperly hoarded sensitive White House documents at Mar-a-Lago after his presidency, after she concluded that Smith's appointment as special counsel was unconstitutional. Smith's appeal contends that Cannon's decision was at odds with widespread and longstanding appointment practices within the Department of Justice. Now, the crazy thing about this is Jack Smith, the judge threw it out. Jack Smith is appealing it, or was appealing it. He's dropping that now, but he was appealing it using our money. This judge threw the case out, but to prolong his job, his status as a special counsel, in which you and I are paying his salary, you and I are paying for his office expenses, probably has a limo, picks him up every morning, takes him to the office. He's prolonging that, or was prolonging that, with our dime, arguing that he should be able to continue to prosecute Donald J. Trump. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the idea that this guy can use our money to continue this chaos? Wonder what his plans were. I'd love to know what Jack Smith thought about the election, if he thought Trump even had a chance. You know what Trump should have gotten an agreement with Joe Biden today? He should have asked Biden to fire Jack Smith for him. You think Biden would have done it? I still get back to what the two of them talked about. And was it really? It had to feel odd for these two men who have just been fierce competitors. I'm not going to say enemies. I don't know that they're enemies, but probably so. They didn't care for one another. Joe Biden, you could see the contempt on his face for Donald Trump. He does not like Donald Trump, although he evidently likes him better now that he beat Kamala Harris. Politics makes for strange bedfellows, the old saying says. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.